Hi there and welcome back, YouTubers. Welcome to video number 13 of Small Engines Questions and Answers for Friday, September 10th, 2010. It's a bit chilly today. It's 12 degrees Celsius or just over 50 Fahrenheit. I guess the summer's over by now. The first question is about a YouTuber who rebuilt a small steel chainsaw. Now he's got the piston and the rings all apart from the cylinder. And now he's wondering which way does the piston go into the cylinder when he reassembles it. Part of the question here is, does the arrow, which is on top of the piston once you clean it up, need to point at the exhaust port or away from it? Any help would be useful. Well, here's a cylinder assembly from a Stihl 046. Now for every 2-cycle engine out there, pretty well the same principle will apply as to what I'm going to show you. Now you can see the arrow on top of the piston, and this arrow points toward the exhaust port. So the YouTuber was correct in guessing that it would go toward the exhaust port. Now these pins here are supposed to point away from any port or hole inside the cylinder. Now what these pins do as well is they stop the rings from rotating on the piston and thus getting caught in the ports and breaking. So these pins would end up facing, let's say here for example, they would never face where there's a hole like this or a port, because what would happen is that the rings would open up in that port and break themselves. So let's say the piston was put on the wrong way, then there's a high chance that the rings would break in these ports, and then you'd have to start all over again. So always remember to point the arrow toward the exhaust port. You can always take pictures of your stuff when you're taking it apart, so when you go to put it back together, you're going to know for sure which position they go in. Now the next question is relating to a piston and rings again. The YouTuber is asking me, would I be wasting my time putting a new piston and ring into a scored cylinder, or would that give me a bit more life out of the saw? Well, usually it is a waste of time. It depends how deep the scratches are on the cylinder. So first of all, what we mean by a scored cylinder and piston is when you look at the piston and ring inside this old saw here, you can see it's all scratched up. So that's what we mean by that. What these scratches will cause is your engine to lose compression and power, therefore it's not going to run right. It may not even start at all. Now if you were to attempt to put a new piston and ring inside a scored cylinder, you'd have to feel it with your hand first to see how deep the scratches are on the cylinder inside here. If they're really deep, it's really not worth it. Sometimes you can repair the cylinder just by sanding it with a 400 grit sandpaper, but that can be touch and go as well. It's not always guaranteed. Now if you've got deep scratches like that and they're deep inside the cylinder, don't even waste your time. It's always better when you do a top-end job like that you replace everything, piston, rings, and the cylinder all at once, because then you know that all three parts are good. Sometimes what happens, you can put a new piston and rings, that will be good, but the cylinder will be worn out inside, even if it's not scratched sometimes, and your engine's not going to run as good as it could. If you think your cylinder's still good, you can go ahead and try it with the new piston and rings, but it's not a guaranteed job. Now my third question today is, people are asking me what kind of gloves do I wear? A lot of people have commented on the gloves that I wear. Well, I'm going to show you a variety of gloves that I use regularly. Now here are some of the gloves I use. The one that I have on my hand is a vinyl glove. They're pretty tough, but your hand doesn't breathe in there. These ones here are my favorite. They're nitrile, and they're pretty tough, and I find my hand does sweat in them, but not as much as in the vinyl gloves. Now the ultimate glove to wear is this one. It's black, and here's the box. blackmambagloves.com. They are expensive, but you can wear a pair of these all day long. If you're careful with them, you're not even going to have a tear or small rip in it with the whole day's work wearing these gloves. They're just expensive, that's why you don't really see me wearing them. But like I said, the blue nitrile ones are the ones I use the most, and these are the ones I prefer. They're tough and they're more cost effective. The reason why I wear gloves is because I'm a caregiver to my wife. I have to go in the house a lot, so I go out of my garage here and I just whip the gloves off and my hands are clean. Also for the reason that a lot of the chemicals I use in here the oil and the grease and the gas and all that. It's a known carcinogen to humans, so it's bad for you. It does absorb through the skin, believe it or not. It's kind of like those Duragesic pain patches that people wear. It's amazing how your body will absorb through the skin chemicals or medication. Now, if you get a bit of oil and grease on your hands like once in a while or once a week or whatever, that's not bad. But if you do it every day, your body's absorbing those chemicals every day, so it's bad for you in the long run. The gloves come in especially handy when you're using glues or Loctite or some kind of really strong adhesive, because once you're done the job, you just throw the gloves away and you don't have this glue on your hands for like a week. Also too, when you get oil and grease on your hands, it can get embedded inside your fingerprints and all that, and in the fingers, and it's really hard to get off. Now, if you work on small engines regularly and you wear gloves most of the time, you're going to find that your hands are going to stay clean a lot easier. You're still going to end up working on stuff without gloves, but your hands won't be as embedded with dirt. Next question I got is, people saw the video that I posted last week on how to replace the throttle mechanism spring on your snowblower, which is under here, which is that little screw right here. People are asking me, what does that screw do? Well, when you turn it in, a couple turns or what, when you throttle up your snowblower, you're going to get higher RPMs when the throttle's up. It's not going to affect the idling of the machine, but if you want more RPMs when you throttle up, you would turn the screw in. If you want less RPMs when your throttle's up, you would turn out the screw. You can turn it out in one-turn increments and see what happens, and leave it to a position where you're happy with it. Don't make it rev too high, because you can break the connecting rod in your engine. What happens over time sometimes is the springs get weak in there, and when your throttle's up, it's not going to have the same RPMs it used to have when it was new, so you have to go in and turning the screw so that your RPMs come back up again. So that's what that little screw's for. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week in my next small engines questions and answers video. Take care now.